Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards. Grief is not with us today. We do not know why, but we hope he is well. However, joining me today, we do have our non-missing co-host, Empty Folder.
Hello, everyone.
And also joining us, we have the realm admin for the most prolific realm in the entirety of Collective, Mortstall. CornMeal is joining us.
Greetings.
Okie dokie then. I want to jump straight into it with the accepted cards. These are cards that are in the collection and you can put them into your decks. But if you don't like them, you don't have to. It's totally optional. Titan's Fossil is a 1-drop Spirit 0/3 place from Unguia with when an ally with 6 or more attack dies, create a 0/3 copy with can't attack. So I think this is super cute and it just fills me with joy. You do have some weird stuff going on where it's like you have to play this and you want the abilities to matter and stuff, but I could see potential shenanigans with this and maybe running this in a non-native build, because if you can get enough ramp for your non-natives, this essentially renders all of your units immortal. They die and then they come back. They can't attack, but maybe you can fix that with Battle Arena. So the whole jank shenanigans, this definitely has jank shenanigans written all over it. But I was interested to get a perspective on where it might matter in the, the multiplayer game that most people actually play. Empty, what do you think of this?
I don't really think it fits into the multiplayer games. It's a very narrow effect, and you need like a super specific type of card for this to work. Like it has to be 6 or more attack, and it has to have like a super relevant static ability or something, where getting a 0/3 copy with can't attack doesn't completely neutralize its value. And there's not a lot of that in standard right now. Maybe if some like super strong 6+ attack card comes out that you want this effect specifically for that, you could see this thing play. But until then, it's really iffy.
Or you can do, I know there's the Dan nerf. Maybe play, or unnerf. Maybe play this with unnerf Dan and just get copies of Dan and so many Dan. Corn, what do you think of this?
First off, I don't know if Dan would work because it has to be an ally with 6 or more attack. But I do think MT is underestimating this. Head Chieftain works incredibly well with this. Boost deck might be able to do well, but Chieftain is the first that comes to mind because one, it has Duelist and 6 attack and an Entomb. So if you kill the Zingis somehow while dueling, it creates a Chiefess, and then you get another Zingis back. I'm probably butchering that, but so head Chiefess or head Chieftain, but whatever. And then they're all going to get the Daring buffs. So it's not going to be hard to get it up to 6 attack again. And even if you don't, you at least got 2 Chiefesses off of it. And it readies, I believe, on entrance.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty good with head Chieftain.
So yeah, Daylings could use it, I'm sure, if people want to play around with. I know there was a recent even a buff to Dat's Fanatic that's on the sub. If that gets through, you can maybe run this in a Fanatic deck, but I do agree that it does require some careful deck building choices, because even the ones I suggested were really jank possibilities. I'm just interested in seeing the potential that this thing could possibly create.
Yeah.
And me and Spaceturtle's ongoing lore over the word kaiju as it appears on cards, but that's for people who are way up on the Discord. I'm right, Spaceturtle's wrong. Oop. Somebody gave me the wrong link. Big Game Whale is a 3-drop neutral 2/3 fish from nowhere in particular with discard a unit with base cost 8 or more to draw 2 cards. So yeah, we talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday, or not yesterday, last week. I didn't have anything in particular more to say about it. Empty, can you send me the right link to that card real quick? And then Corn, do you have anything to say about Big Game Whale?
For Big Game Whale, I was just thinking that this is a very good card for the current Mari decks that depend on using her active. For example, you discard a Titan that's 11 mana or so, and then you have exactly the card you need in your graveyard, and then you get a little card advantage at the same time. It's just a good filter tool, especially if you want to play a high cost control deck.
Yeah. I am interested to see the potential that this kind of thing will have. I think it could potentially do a lot. Okay.
There it is.
But yeah, I don't know. I think people are maybe shaping up like this big cost deck, and I think this and the other card we looked at could be important components to it. So I'm excited to see what people could do with this. Do you have any more comments on this one, or you just want to go on?
No, we talked about it last week.
Okie dokie then. The Way of the World is a 3-drop mind action from Talira with deal 3 damage and both players get +1 max mana. This thing got in, and I will tell you, I personally, based around the history I've seen with these kind of cards, am surprised and intrigued. So for a little bit more mana, it's a fireball, but you also get a +1 max mana, sort of a ramp for both players, symmetric ramp. I love symmetric ramp. For those of you who don't know, in Magic the Gathering, I tend to run group hug. So I absolutely love ramp effects that help multiple players at once and make the game just get way and way snowball out of control. Because I think it's just a really, really cute way to run a game. And now we have something that does that kind of thing. I also do got to say, I like the story that Jtad has been weaving into these things, because I feel like Talira's had this noticeable shift in direction where it used to have this world. It had some world and some stuff going on, but flora and fauna. And now it's actually making me start to ask questions about the lore. I don't know if Jtad intends to answer them, but it is kind of interesting. And it's something I wanted to take note of. MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, this card seems very strong. I was pretty surprised when it got in. But this is going to be like an instant slot into the new age of Rick decks once we see a rotation. It's very a natural control tool for mine that I think is going to see a lot of play.
Yeah. Corn, what do you think?
Pretty much continuation of empties. This will be run in Rick deck pretty profusely. I mean, Corn, I think, is Cornelius is going to probably stay in standard, if I recall. So with Cornelius staying in standard, you now have a ramp you can use with Cornelius. I don't know if Cornelius is still competitive overall, but still having that option for the mind-only deck definitely makes this a good card for it. It also not only has removal, but as ramp. Also, it can hit face, so having that little bit of burn reach is always useful for mind.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, now these are the accepted or active submissions, which means they're on the subreddit and you could vote for them. And if you click the up, they're more likely to get in the game. And if you click the down, they're less likely to get in the game. And when you're playing the game, you'll also get an up and a down, and those do basically the same thing. Imprison-Mint is a 4-drop spirit action from Zukros with give a unit can't attack, can't block, and at the end of turn, create a random candy for the caster. I really, really like White's removal suite in Magic that has to do with enchantment removal or removal that can be undone. Obviously, here we don't have the whole can be undone aspect really, but the whole sitting there taking up a spot in your board but keeping it out of combat, but only combat, is sort of an interesting dynamic, and I do like that this could also feed in via a cool candy engine. What is this sitting at? I deleted it. Hold on. I think it's 3. What are people's issues with this card? CornMeal, I'll let you start.
I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Forever Exhaust card. It's not quite as bad as that, actually, because you could still use this as a duelist. For its limitations, making a creature a candy engine is all right, but I am concerned that it will be kind of lackluster.
Yeah. MT, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit weak as well. Right now, like what a lot of decks run removal for is specifically to deal with engines, because those are still super strong. And this doesn't really stop any engine, which puts it at an awkward spot. Like you're just running this for combat units, and there's like combat units usually aren't what you're scared of. It's usually the engines and stuff with passive effects that this can't do anything to.
And so that, yeah, I personally did feel, even just for what it does, I think it's overcosted. I think this could be, I want to say 2. Do you guys agree with 2, or would you say 3?
I'd say 3. At
3?
2, it's like really good, especially like
Because
if we
it does
get
make the
engine
thing no
nerfs,
candy
then
engine,
yeah, then it'd be kind
So
of
yeah,
nice.
I'd probably say pacifism, the can't attack, can't block thing at 2, and the candy engine probably bumps this up to only about 3. That makes sense. What do you think, Corn?
I think that's probably about right. I do wish you could add can't attack and can't block at 1, but I know that's never going to happen. So.
Okie dokie. Hydroblast is a 4-drop mind spell from Seal of Elementary with create or deal 4 damage to a unit and create a muddy terrain. A muddy terrain is a can't attack 0/3 ambusher. So I do like just the cute little, oh, let's make a little 0/3 and then you get some damage and a blocker. I think this gives a lot of good momentum to an action-based deck, but also interacts with the board a little bit. And overall, I just think flavorfully, this thing is just a home run. Just I love this, the art, the simple art, and then the whole idea that it's conveying. I feel like this is a very flavor-forward design, and I just love that about it. Corn, what do you think of this?
This is really good control removal. Incredibly good. It's like a Lunar Blast, except it's a little more defensive. Because Lunar Blast, you still require to kill the unit and get rewarded for it with ping spells. But this, you don't even have to kill the unit. You can do 4 to whatever, and then you get a blocker. And that allows you to have a much better control of the board state. So this is a type of action that you want if you want to be able to stall the game for a bit.
Yeah. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, I have to agree with Corn. I don't have much to add to it. It's just a fine piece of removal for Brick.
Yeah, and it's doing pretty well, so it'll probably sitting at like 8 right now, so it'll probably get in. I just wanted to highlight it because I think it was a really good work on Jtad's part, even though it's a simple design. The Optimistic Beetle is a 3-drop spirit 3/1 insect knight from nowhere in particular with Duelist and Entomb. Give an ally unit +1/+3. I think that, so I've just been highlighting a bunch of Jtad designs. So I don't know why. The art on this is a little goofy, but I really like it. It's cute and it reminds me of like some like classic collective stuff. The style of it being like removal that switches to be defensive. Very, very curious like flavor choice, but I'm digging it. And I do see that it feels like it's the kind of thing that can slot into a lot of different decks. And so I really just liked it as a possible like a limited staple or something like that. Like this is a great card to pull in like Sentinels. Empty, what do you think of this?
I think it's actually kind of in an awkward spot. I think you can only really run this in insects because it's going to be horrible with new dot. Like you're bringing this down as 1 health, so you're guaranteed to miss your passive, and then you're boosting up one of your other units, which makes it harder to hit your passive in the future. I haven't actually played the Bullock insect deck yet. I'm not sure exactly how aggressive it is and if they would want a tool like this. I think Corn could answer that a bit better, but we'll see where it fits in.
Yeah, I do agree that this is terrible for dot. I don't know. I'd be interested in seeing just kind of how this would get used. What do you think, Corn?
I do agree with the analysis that this isn't great for dot. I wasn't even thinking about that for the most part. Maybe if it was a buff in hand, it would be better for dot with the new mechanic. That way you would have a buffed unit that would have higher HP, but that might put you into a hole. Duelist is actually something in general that Dot wants right now, though, because if you actually get it to a lower HP count on your duelists, then you're able to play higher HP drops. But yeah, one moment.
But yeah, I thought it was a cute little interesting design. It's sitting at 5, so we might see it in there. Even if it's just limited fodder, I think it's really, really great at doing that job. And that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Wait one moment. If you could go back, I can talk about the insect deck because Empty brought it up.
Okay.
So for insects, this is good and bad. It's good in that it is consistent to be able to make tokens, but for the most part, the more aggressive players in insect actually care more about getting a whole bunch of 1-drops out after your opponent has mostly ceased being able to react and having them force attack with buffs. And then you wipe your opponent in a very Bolix style, even though it's running tokens. So I don't know if having a 3-mana 3/1 is the best, but it's not the worst thing that can happen with that deck scenario, because you do want higher attack overall, but this isn't super high attack overall. It's just a curve that way with what it has left after using the end. So
yeah, this just it feels to me like sort of a very good mid-rangey option for stuff, because it reminds me almost of not quite of like Shinbone Jouster, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this, do a quick kill, and then get some extra value out of it, hopefully when it comes back. That value comes back as the little like the +1/+3 buff instead of just getting the unit back. So I don't know. I think it could be cute.
Maybe if Duelist deck comes back, but that might be hard with Clan Smith Eater not doing too well.
Yeah. The Echoes of the Past from Alter Corona is a 0-drop mind exclusive action from Alter Corona. Can't be played while this is in hand. When you play a card, banish this and create a copy of the played card in hand, then give this ability to it. So basically what this does is it is a duplicate of the last card you played. What this is annoying with is the way this works in practice is every single time you play a card, you have to sit through this animation over and over and over again.
Hopefully they picked a short one.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's just like the create a card animation, right? The ones they can't avoid, it's still annoying. Like I would do this with no animation and it would still take a long time. But I do like this effect. So I do think it's interesting that this is sitting at 0 votes. Another way to play this kind of thing, and I've seen this done, is doing something similar to what obviously the quest reward off of the one Miss Them thing does, is a way to do this, where it's just, it has the name and the cost, but it doesn't actually constantly create that card. So that could be a potential route just to make this easier. I've done something similar to this in one of my little test modes. But even all of those considerations, I don't think are what's causing this card to get hit so bad. So I kind of wanted to ask about it, starting with you, Empty.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are contributing to it. So one, it's a rare, and its effect is kind of more wordy than it needs to be. Like you said, this can be done a lot easier and more convenient by like changing the cost and using a force play in order to actually make this more convenient. And then like this can lead to a lot of like really weird combos that people might be like slightly scared of, that's causing people to downvote. It's really hard to think of all the implications that like having an extra copy of your best card in hand all the time can have. And on top of this, like it can also very easily become an auto include in mind decks just because of how versatile it is. Like you're basically paying nothing for this.
Yeah, so I guess I wasn't too clear about it. Just so when if Go Doggo hears this podcast, he can hear what we're talking about. The idea is to give this card the effect. This card has the cost and name of the last card you played, and its effect becomes play a copy of the last card you played, or something like that. CornMeal, what do you think of this?
Honestly, I thought it was just too strong. But for the force play part, versus doing this, that's probably for action triggers. But yeah, I don't think it's that great to always have. I mean, this generates a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you cast a card, it makes a new one.
Yeah.
So that's
well, sort of. I mean, it doesn't give you a card advantage. It just turns itself into a card.
Does it? It says banish this and create the copy of the played card in hand, then give it this ability.
Yeah. So then when you play your next card, the copy will banish itself because it has that ability and add another card.
Okay. So even, I guess it doesn't. Okay. I was thinking it would keep creating a copy. But even so, being able, if there's one thing I know from playing collective, which I don't know if that's something it's copies. Lots of copies is something that people are very easy at words. People are able to make a lot of duplicates of their cards in this game, like an absurd amount of duplicates, either tokens in play or in hand or whatever. And honestly, it adds way too much consistency, which is actually the opposite of normally what I normally am much more against. I'm against both, but having too much consistency in your game leads to the same gameplay over and over and over, if that makes sense. So
guys, this is broken for a different reason than we thought. Debris.
Oh yeah, that does work.
If you actually choose to play your debris instead of discarding them, you get 2 damage off of every debris.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, that's a jank-ass interaction, but...
That's like a char issue, where you have something that's basically, because you have to banish it for it to work, then it causes issues overall when you have something that does mass banishing or the like. This doesn't do mass banishing, but it's a little tamer than char. That is a fun combo, but yeah, it would be a bit much, I think, because it's not very interactable. But maybe
I want to build Rockstot deck, but not that way. We could do Rockstot deck. It's gonna be a thing. Just you wait. 2022 Rockstot deck. The Lizathep Infested is a 2-drop spirit 2/2 undead Lizabo from Mirage. With your Lizabo have, when this deals damage to a unit, that unit gets -X attack equal to the damage dealt. So this basically is very reminiscent of sort of a Wither-like effect from MTG, which I really like Wither. And it gives all your dudes Wither, your Lizabo Wither. I know Lizabo I know there were some people playing around with the Second Sunrise thing, and this looks like a great bit of synergy for that. Art's pretty good. I don't know who did that, but no, this is made by the Dream Team. So, Corn, what do you think of this?
This is a very anti-Lizabo deck card that is made for Lizabo. By being one of the easiest ways to defeat Lizabo in the metagame was to be able to take away the attack of their units using Malicious Mage or I think it's Dunewalker Trapper. Yes, Dunewalker Trapper were very good ways of mitigating the climb to awaken pharaohs. I don't know how much. I mean, it does synergize in the way that you want to be doing damage with Lizabo. But I don't know if you actually would run this over other options. But when rotation comes, a lot of the options are going to disappear anyway, so you might as well. And being able to make it so your Lizabo have a better chance of surviving the combat encounters might be worth it. So it could be useful for the deck. Though the deck is a little bit in the dumps right now after the nerf of increasing the awaken of Sunrise by 5. Because it's still awakened, so there's still so many ways to get rid of Sunrise. And it was already able to stall it until turn 10 or so and still win games against it. But no, we just increased it by 5. So now it's able to be a quest that's interruptible, which was great. I like that it was interruptible, but also now it's too slow to be competitive against aggro. It already was. Now it really is dead. But maybe things will change. Who knows?
MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so I like that this sort of conveys the rivalry between the Lizabo and the Dunewalkers mechanically. I think that's a really interesting way of like creating an effect like this. Because the Wither, like, it's super easy to shut down Dunewalkers with just a bit of damage now. That being said, like, gameplay wise, it's a bit weird for Lizabo to have an effect like this. I don't think it'll fit that well with like their tribal deck because they're pretty aggro focused, and this seems more like a mid-range sort of control style tool.
Yeah, so I think between the people not wanting it deck to get good again post nerf and the other stuff, this is currently sitting at 1. So I guess Spike, take whatever advice you can take from this.
Maybe if there were more Lizabo duelists.
Yeah. I think this is more the fault of the environment around it than the card itself. Okay, the Ribbons Amongst Rubble is a 1-drop strength action from Talira. With this turn, when an ally unit dies, Herald 2. Really, really great if you could get a whole bunch of things to die all at once. Maybe if you're playing like a Grave Rave, just gonna run this off affinity to that. That would be. I'm sure there's other shenanigans. I do almost wish, especially since there's so much space in that text box, even for a common, that this was Chroma Spirit, because this does feel like something. Maybe Spirit can get some Herald. Maybe that would be fun. And it would just give the card more versatility. What's it sitting at? It's sitting at 2. I don't think that's entirely fair. Maybe people are thinking this is bonkers. There's some bonkers interaction I'm not considering. Corn, what do you think of this?
I was in the labs when I was reviewing this. I think it's a fine card. Jtad originally had it at 2 mana cost, but that was too weak. But yeah, the only issues with it is being an action in a Herald deck. Other than that, I mean, maybe just a sack deck, to be honest. But yeah, no, it's a fine payoff. We have, and maybe people think these cards are too strong, but we have Carbine Constructor already that does that every time you play a unit, basically, or one enters play, you Herald. And we have another Blood Blotter, which every time a unit dies, Herald 1. We have every time you gain life, Herald 1. We have every time you kill an enemy unit, Herald 1. I don't see this being too strong, but I see it being a good card, seeing that it's only 1 turn, and you get a slightly better payoff than you do than some 3 and 2 drops for that.
Maybe people are just thinking it's unnecessary because the deck has all those options you listed.
Maybe, but this is a little easier to have it all trigger off at once.
Yeah.
There is the 3-drop that everything when you have a ally die, you Herald 1, as I mentioned, the Blood Blotter, but this might allow for you to, as you were saying with a Grave Rave or Song, I was thinking more Flambeau. Might give something similar if you run this with Flambeau as well as the Life Bond Heralder, and just Life Bond a huge amount. I mean, not like Herald a huge amount, but maybe you're right. Maybe it seems a bit too much. And again, it's another action that you are not heralding onto.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get your payoff as soon with the more actions you hold in your deck.
Well, from what I understand, isn't Herald more about tempo? You want some things to Herald onto and some things to just like allow that Herald to pool, right?
So yes, but normally you do that in the deck building. You do that by having units that you prefer to be heralded onto as all of your units. If some people will occasionally have a few units in their deck that are not good herald targets because they're good for other reasons. The plant that makes 3 chickens, for example, sometimes run, and you usually don't want those to be hit. But no, normally when you're making a deck for herald, you have it so all of your units are good targets for herald.
MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I also think it's pretty weak. You can run this with Hit the Hive and then it's decent, but the reality is that like Herald is really weak. Stats are generally not that great, and especially when you have to build around this in order to make it better than just like Made to Order, which was not a great card back in this day. I just think it's a very weak effect.
Okay.
Makes me laugh that I heard that come full circle. Herald this week again.
Okay, the Quality Assure is a 2-drop spirit 1/2 robot clerk engineer from Tutela. With when another ally enters play, set its attack / HP to higher value. Things I love about this: it feels very Tutela. The art is very good. The effect is really interesting, and it's a great build around, and it's at 2 cost. Things that kind of annoy me about this. Can we just have scientists or engineers? Is that really an important distinction we're going to mull over a whole bunch? Why? I don't know. Somebody go bug me on Discord. But yeah, I do love this card. I absolutely want this card to get in. This card is like one of my favorite cards on this week. I actually did pick it before checking that Corn had already picked it. Empty, what do you think of this?
Oh, I absolutely love this card. It's so cool. Just a really, really interesting build around. Like thinking about units that have like really unbalanced attack and HP values isn't something you're normally considering. So having like a whole deck around that sounds like an absolute blast. I'm really hoping this gets in.
I think the obvious thing that comes to mind is DAT, but there's probably some other things I'm not considering. I mean, it does kind of play into maybe a similar space as that card we were talking about earlier that just got in, the thing that makes the 0/3s. A lot of different potential options for this. Corn, what do you think?
I really like the card. I'm just worried it might be too strong, but the more I look at it, I don't think it is. Collective has a lot of cards that have very how do I say not diverse, but you'll have a card with a lot of HP or a card with a lot of attack, and then you'll get a huge amount of stat payoff off of this. But all things considered, with all the value engines we do have, and seeing that this one is actually not too hard to remove at its cost. For example, you can actually trade. It's probably actually fine. It just can give a huge amount. That's all. But it is a very good card. It is a very good Lord effect.
Yeah. And it's sitting at 6, so it's probably going to get in. That'll be fun to play around with. The Forge-Wrought Fighter is a 4-drop strength 4/4 Spectre Samurai Artisan from Yamato. With Duelist and Entrance and Slay, create a Trusty Blade, and when an ally gains attack, make it permanent. I did not know that that last effect was possible, but we're just going to assume it is, and it works well. Kind of makes sense in my head, maybe. I'm just wondering what people use this for, because from what I understand, Red Reanimator, is it finally in a place where it can work now, or I guess Corn would be the person to ask about that.
For the most part, I just want more 4-drop 4/4 duelists. But That's not the only reason I chose this. I actually chose this because it has entrance. And for our card pool, with all this scout, not only scout, but with the shift deck that was coming up and how much it actually mattered to have RNG cards entering play, I think it's good to have a few more entrants instead of summon-like effects.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that we do need some decent removal cards. This is an okay removal card. It's a little bit slow on the duelist front, but it's a fair duelist. It's a very fair card. It's not very. I don't know if it would be competitive, but with the more removal gets nerfed in our current climate, the more necessity it is to have fair removal instead in your decks. And 4 attack is becoming ever more an important key part to keeping your unit alive, which seems a little odd, but a lot of spirit removal is a lot of the decent spirit removal is attack dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Knuckle Sandwich, the Soul, the one from Thoma. Those are both based off of attack. Defenestrate is now 3 mana, destroy 3 cost or less. It only trades or goes weaker. There's only other 4 mana removal that can deal with this now, and they're all burn. And even if you do burn this, because this has an entrance / summon, that
You
one
still
can
get the
make
value
you
back
buff.
out of it, yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, you still get the value back out of it, even if it does get removed, which is always nice. Even though the value is just a little +1/+1. I could see this could work quite a bit with the target deck, I guess, because it does give you a cheap source of like targets potentially, or Trusty Blades, and that could be fun. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's a new year, new 4-drop scaling duelist. Like, in all honesty, I feel like this sort of design is very overdone, but they're all pretty balanced. So, and this one has the sort of interesting effect that it makes ally attack gains permanent. I hope it's blocked right, because that seems very difficult to block. But we have that Dune Walker that deals with attack changes and turns it into damage. So this type of effect is definitely possible.
Yeah,
I could see in my head how it could be blocked. I'm not that confused about the blocking. I'm just hoping it works. And there's no like corner case we're not thinking of or whatever.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that seems really hard to account for too.
Okie dokie then. This is the only one we picked of these. I'm sorry.
There's only 2 on the sub this week.
Oh, the Crafty Contender is a 1-drop mind exclusive 1/1 psychic aberration from Verstalt with summon Surmise. Surmise says place a hidden mark on a chosen card in your opponent's hand. Reveal the mark when that card changes zones. When an enemy plays a marked card, this gains +2 attack and ward. I think this is interesting and a good introduction to the mechanics. So, Empty, I'll just let you go give the introduction. Tell me a little bit about what the realm is about and what you were hoping this card to accomplish.
Yeah, so Verstalt is trying to like explore a pretty underutilized design space, which is like hand interaction, and specifically for Surmise cards, mind games. A big part of the realm is going to be like placing these hidden marks and then like messing with your opponent's hands to make cards either more favorable for them to play or less favorable for them to play. And then the goal is to utilize the fact that you know what your opponent is most likely to play in order to gain an advantage. And this is just like a very simple 1-drop to sort of introduce the mechanic and get sort of a staple card for the set that lets you set up marks early, either to just get a slightly overcurve 1-drop and get some hand information, or like set up a mark on something later down the line when you have like more of a board built up and can take more advantage from it.
Corn, what do you think of this?
Well, mostly I wanted to ask about the keyboard and how it deals with mark. That's one of the things I wanted to ask.
Yeah, so how it works is as soon as they like begin to play the card, the mark gets revealed and the card gets the mark property. So it works with like all the other cards that say like when you play a marked unit, like Lunar Interdictor and that whole thing.
Okay, that's good.
Which is also why it's exclusive, funnily enough. I thought doing this turn 1 into turn 2 Lunar Interdictor would be pretty ridiculous. I'm not really sure what the meta looks like right now. Maybe that's okay. I know Wujek said that'd probably be fine. So maybe I'll resub it, not exclusive, if it doesn't get in.
Yeah, it's sitting at 2. I really do hope stuff happens with this Verstalt stuff, though, because it does interest me quite a bit.
I would prefer if the mark cards would be together, but yeah.
I mean, they do work together, so.
No, I meant.
Oh, like it can be played, yeah. Okie dokie then. So that's all we had this week. Sorry we had sort of a short thing because Grief wasn't with us, but it was an interesting week. I feel like things have been kind of slow, but I mean, a lot of people have been away for the holidays. Hopefully things are going to ramp up soon. Thank you so much, Corn, for joining me today. Always great to have you.
No problem.
And thank you, Empty, for showing up and being on time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, whatever's up with Grief, we hope he's well.
Yeah.
So, like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I'm doing this. And keep on playing collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.